Alright, how's my hair? So, in this second course of game programming, we're going to be learning how to make games in C++. It happens to be my favorite language. Woo! But why else would you actually want to be using C++? If you've heard anything about it, it might seem like a not so modern choice. But C++ really has kept up with the times, and it is especially useful when performance is a critical aspect of your program. If you're going to go into systems engineering or building tools or pretty much anything that needs high performance over ease of use, then C++ is a really good language to choose. So we're going to go through and learn a lot about the language, but mostly we're going to use it to learn more in-depth programming lessons, and we're going to, if you haven't seen it before, we're going to be making some 2D games with graphics. So I am in Visual Studio right now, and you can see that I have just the getting started screen up. And to make sure that you have that you're ready to do C++ work, go to the Tools menu and go to Get Tools and Features. It's going to make you change some settings, sure. Has to check for updates, sure. So this is going to let us install different components for Visual Studio, and they're not all installed by default. You can see I have .NET development that has C# stuff, but this is the one you're going to be installing. Make sure that you have this one checked off and install it. Desktop development with C++. So I've got it already installed, so I'm just going to close this and get moving. So like I said, C++ is used a lot, and it's used a lot in games. There are tons of proprietary engines that are using C++ under the hood. It's object-oriented, so it's actually very, very similar to C# if you've used that before. And there are a few technical differences that you'll see as we get going along. And even if you think about a high-performance engine like Unity, Unity uses C# as its scripting language, but Unity is programmed, it's developed in C++. So if you actually worked for Unity and worked on the engine, or if you happen to be at a game studio that maybe has access to the source, you'd see that it's in C++. So I'm going to ignore this Get Started screen. I'm going to go File, New Project. And I have a bunch of options here in the New Project dialog. I'm going to go down to the Visual C++ category. It should be there if you installed it. And I'm going to choose an empty project. So the Windows ones, they'll add some extra junk to your project that you probably don't want. And I'm going to name it Hello World. You probably see where I'm going with this. And I'm going to name the solution Game 220. Alright, so this is a fine place for it. Okay. Alright, so we have a just a blank solution and project, nothing in it. So I'm going to add a new source file. Easiest way for me is to right click on your project. Hello World is my project. And go to Add New Item. Gives me a bunch of options, and I'm going to choose C++file.cpp. I'm going to name it main.cpp. Pretty standard. So click on the Add button, and that adds it to our program. So I'm going to type up some boilerplate code, and this is going to be pretty standard stuff for C++, and not that far from what you might have seen before. Start with a preprocessor directive, #include, and I'm going to include IOStream in angle brackets, and then using namespace standard. And then I'm going to create a main function. This is the entry point for the program. There we go. All right. Ooh. Okay. So with that out of the way, we have a main function, and the body of the function is going to contain all of our code. And we have included some external code, some standard library code, IOStream, which is going to help us print out to the console. So if you've seen all this before, whatever, you can still follow along. Main is a function because it has parentheses after the identifier, and int is its return type. It also takes a couple of arguments, argc and argv, which are command line arguments. If you were writing a tool that you ran by typing it in at the command prompt, then you could pass in arguments, options, and information about what it's working on. So using IOStream, I'm going to be using a couple of objects. One of them is cout. I'm going to do cout, and then the insertion operator, it's two left angle brackets. Hello world in double quotes. Another insertion operator, and then the object endl, which stands for end line. So this should print out to the console hello world and end the line. And then cin.get. We'll just do that for now. So we're going to print out hello world. We're going to wait for a key press. Cin is a console input object. And then we're going to return a value. Because I declared main returning an integer, we should return something. So I'm going to return 0, which means success. So if you get a exit code of 0, you have quit successfully. And if you return anything else, then it indicates to the operating system that there was an error. All right, so we can go up to the green button and press play and see if we did it right. Avast is complaining. Get out of there. All right. Hello world. And then we should be able to press something to get out of there. Looks good. Let's try one more time. Yep. Waits for me to press enter to clear the buffer. All right. So that's the gentle introduction to C++. We will talk more about it in the next video. See ya.